How's it going, everyone? It is Two Pad Stack here, and welcome back to another video. Today, we will be discussing the Northern Division, Canadian Division, whatever you want to call it, and where I think each team is going to finish in the division. We're going to go over the strengths of the team, the weaknesses of the team, some questions I have for the team, and basically just talk about some notable players. So, yeah, we're going to rank them. I'm not really going to go in any particular order of the team, not alphabetically. It doesn't really matter. Just whichever ones I have on my list in whatever order. So, anyways, let's get started. So, we're going to start with Edmonton, and I think that we all know what Edmonton's strength is. Edmonton's strength is their offense, and most notably from Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl. So, McDavid has always feasted on Canadian teams. Which is why I think Edmonton is going to be very, very good, and why I think McDavid's just going to win everything this year. The question I have is their goaltending, with Mike Smith still being the backup. I think Koskinen's a fine goaltender, but it's going to be interesting to see how they do. But I think McDavid and Draisaitl's offense is going to be the driving force of this team moving forward. And not only that, but they did get Tyson Barrie in the offseason. And I know a lot of Toronto fans complained about Barrie, but Barrie still had like 46 points or somewhere in that ballpark. So they're going to be pretty offensively gifted, and hopefully they can do a little bit better defensively than they showed in the return. But with that being said, based on how good I think their offense is going to be this season, I will put Edmonton at number 3. This was definitely the hardest division to rank because from number 3 to number 6, it's a complete crapshoot for me. There are two teams I see being just slightly above the rest, but we'll see. In fact, it's probably number 2 to number 6, if I'm being honest. I think we'll get there when we get there, but Edmonton's number 3. Next up, I have, their main rival, Calgary. Calgary, their top 6 is their strength, but it can also be their weakness. It's interesting to see because we always heard over the offseason and during the break that Calgary was looking to move out a core piece, and they haven't. They really haven't. They moved in 3 guys from Vancouver, and plus Louis Domingue. But still, Calgary, I just don't have a lot of faith in their top 6 to get it done. It's been 2 seasons of them being very good and then just going cold. Like, there was a period of games this past season where they didn't score a goal for like 3 games. So, I don't know. They still have Tkachuk and Gaudreau and Monahan, and they're going to have Markstrom as their starting goaltender, but I just, for some reason, I just don't have a lot of faith in this team. So I have them at number 6 in the division. So, yeah. If they make me eat my words, they make me eat my words, and everyone can meme on me, but I see them at number 6. Next up, we have Montreal. Montreal, I think their young stars, their goaltending, and their defense, especially with how they played against Pittsburgh and Philadelphia in the return, I think that's their biggest strength. Experience, I know that like Carey Price is a veteran presence and Shea Weber. I know they have that, but for their young stars, like Suzuki and like Kotkaniemi, it's going to be interesting to see how far that'll carry them. Now, I have Montreal at number 4 for one reason, and that's because they're kind of unproven. They weren't very good this past season. They really weren't. But because they snuck in as the number 24 team, they had the chance to play Pittsburgh, and then they beat Pittsburgh and surprised everyone, and then put up a pretty good fight against Philly. So, I know they added Toffoli, and Allen, but it's going to be interesting to see. I still have Montreal making the playoffs, so I'm not too hard on them, but it's going to be interesting to see how they do over the regular season, because last season they really weren't very good, and they gave up way too many 2-on-1s against Carey Price. So Hopefully, Jake Allen can reduce the workload, but I have them at number 4. Next up, we have Ottawa. Now, I have Ottawa squarely at number 7. And that's not because I don't have faith in Ottawa. I think Ottawa is going to be much better this season than they were in seasons past. But because of how tight this division is going to be, and just because Ottawa is the weakest team, they might have a worse record than how they're actually playing. So Ottawa could benefit in the draft at least because they'll be a better team than where their record actually shows. I feel. Their young stars are really going to be hopefully impressive this season with Stützle. And, Kachuk, Brady will still be a good player. Shabbat, they added Dadonov. How is Brandstrom going to do? But I just don't see them being very competitive in this division compared to all of the other teams. Ottawa's defense and their goaltending is pretty much their biggest problem because I know they got Shabbat on that blue line and he can play 27 minutes a night, but he's one guy. You need more people on that blue line, and if Brandstrom can step up and actually make that Stone deal look good at this point, then we'll see how it goes. But I have Ottawa at number 7. Next up, we'll go with Winnipeg. We'll save the last number 1 and number 2 for last. Winnipeg, I have in 5th. So I think Winnipeg's a very, very good team. And my only concern is their defense and their backup. I think that's really what's going to hold them back. Now, they can flip-flop with Montreal, but, it's going to be really interesting to see how Laine does this season. It's going to be interesting to see, because Wheeler, Scheifele, and Connor are a great top line. And it's going to be hard to see where Laine fits into there. I know that Connor plays the opposite wing as Laine, but Connor's also a goal scorer, just like Laine. And you really don't want to have 2 goal scorers on the same line. I know that Wheeler is getting older, and he may even take a step back this season. But Laine may end up being that second line role. But if Stastny can come in and improve Laine's confidence, at least in the team, then that can stay. But we'll see. That's Winnipeg's biggest weakness is going to be their defensive play because they really don't have that big defensive defenseman anymore. With the whole Bufflin thing last season and just their loss of defense, not really over the pause, but just their defensive numbers weren't great last season. And, Hellebuyck carried them through that last season. But Brossoit is a decent backup, but it's going to be interesting to see how he handles himself. But anyway, let's go on to the number 2 team. And I have Vancouver as number 2. Vancouver is a great young team. They have a great top 6. The overall youth on the team is really, really good. The big question I have is goaltending. Can Holtby bounce back? And is Demko as good as he looked in the 3 games against Vegas? If Demko is that good, which, okay, realistically, he's not going to have a .998 save percentage this year, but if he can have a .930, a .925, that is really, really good. But if Holtby can have, a .920, .915, they'll be a really, really solid team. Now, I know that they lost Tanev, and they lost Markstrom, and even Lebo is a loss to an extent, but it's going to be interesting because I see Miller and Pettersson still having great seasons. They still have Horvat. Besser's still there. My big question is Virtanen, because Virtanen, I still see him more from him. I can see Virtanen having maybe his big breakout season this year, and if not, he's still a good player. I know people get on him a lot, but to replace Tanev, they got Nate Schmidt. And as a Vegas fan, I can say Nate Schmidt is a very, very good defenseman. And, I don't know if he's better than Tanev, or if they're, same tier defensemen, but Schmidt with Quinn Hughes, that'll be a really, really good tandem. And they still have Edler and Myers, so it's going to be, I think they're going to be a pretty good team this year. And then at number 1, we have Toronto. Now, it's kind of hard to judge Toronto because they still have, $40 million in cap locked up into 4 guys. But, I love their additions. Um, they added Wayne Simmons, they added Joe Thornton, they added some really good things. And not only that, but they also added TJ Brody, who's a very, very good defenseman in his own right. And then they still have Matthews, Marner, and Tavares. And I think Nylander gets more crap than he really deserves. And Zach Hyman could have a better season. Like, I'm not saying that he had a bad one. He had a very good season. But I think that he could really break out. Toronto, one thing that they kind of got pushed around a little bit by Columbus. And I think the additions of guys like Thornton, like Simmons, I think that makes them a heavier team because Toronto has always been a team that you could kind of push around, at least the past few seasons. So being able to see them step up, and one thing that I think that their big four need to do is improve their physicality. Matthews needs to hit more. Marner needs to hit more. Tavares needs to hit more. They need to put some more grit on that team. That will really surprise other teams. And I think Toronto this year could be their big step. With the additions that they've made, with the leadership on that team now, with Thornton, with Tavares, with Matthews, I see them as much more of a contender this season than I did last season. So I think Toronto was a number 1, at least in my eyes. I'm pretty sure they're going to be number 1. But really, the Canadian division from number 1 to number 6 is pretty tight. It's pretty tight. I'd say that there is one or two great teams, and then there's 4 or 5, really good teams. And then there's one team that, they're on the rise. They could surprise some people, but I think that they're going to get pushed around a little bit this season. And I think next season, when the divisions are back to where they're going to be, I think that they can really, I think the Senators will really be able to step up. So anyways, guys, that's it for this video. What do you think of my predictions for the Northern Division? What are your predictions? If you like this video, subscribe, leave a like. Anyways, I will see you guys next time.